Okay, so today we are going to discuss about the structure of the heart. Now, the first question is where the heart is located. Well, it is located in the left lungs. Actually, there is a cavity which is located in the left lung, which is called as cardiac notch, and the heart is located in that place only. Now, why we do need a heart? Well, the answer is very simple, because our all cells need food plus oxygen to do their daily metabolic activities, and because of these processes there are some metabolic waste also generated. So our blood, which is a homeostatic fluid in our body, it maintains the equilibrium in our body. Now, what kind of equilibrium it maintains? Well, it maintains, it gives oxygen and food to the cells, and in return it takes CO2 and metabolic waste products from the cells. So in that sense, it maintains the equilibrium. Well, so with this discussion, we know that the blood is a very important component in the body, and it cannot propulse itself. So we need a machine, we need a pump, so that this fluid can go up to every tissue and cell properly. That's why we need a heart. Okay, so heart just works like a pump, which pumps our blood throughout the body. And in this condition, heart is made up of some muscular cells, which we call as cardiac cells, and it is an autorhythmic organ. In that sense, it does not receive any neural signals from the brain or from the spinal cord. It is a self-made machine, and it works on the autorhythmicity. Well, now we are going to first looking the structure of the cell, and to be specific, the structure of the heart organ. Sorry. So let's draw the structure of the heart. Well, it is pretty easy. If we do not complicate, then it is pretty easy. The mammalian heart, here we are referring only the mammalian heart, and in mammalian heart we have 4 chambers. Okay, so we will first draw the 4 chambers, and then we will draw the veins and arteries and all the tubes which are going to and coming from the heart. And there are many muscles, and there are some neurons which are also associated with these boxes. So let's first draw. So yes, this is first, this is second, and yeah. Okay, so these are the 4 chambers which are there in the structure of the heart, and we have an outer box, so let's draw it. Yeah, so this is the covering, outer covering, which is made up of muscles, cardiac muscles, which are in function, they are non-voluntary, involuntary muscles. So yes, this is the right atrium, and this is the right ventricle. This is the left atrium, and this is the left ventricle. Now these are the 4 boxes, but what else we do have in this structure of the heart? So we do have many things. For example, we do have certain valves here. Let me draw it in a different color. So we do have 2 valves here between this ventricle between this ventricle and this atrium. In the same manner, we also do have these valves here also between the left atrium and left ventricle. So these are the two valves. One is between right atrium and right ventricle, and the second one is between left atrium and left ventricle. Now we do have also two things here, so let me draw it in a different color. So yeah, this and this. Okay, so we do have four types of valves. We will do the discussion about these valves in a moment, but let's draw some of the other things which are associated with the heart. So at this moment it it might be confusing, but in a moment all the things will be clear in your mind once I will describe everything. Okay, so just be patient and just try to understand the things. Okay, I'll explain each and everything with a proper detail, so don't worry about that. Okay, so first thing is that we have as we know that we have four chambers in a mammalian heart. So we have right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium and left ventricle. Okay, so these are the four chambers. Now we do have two veins which are being connected to this right atrium. So this we call as superior vena cava, and this is inferior vena cava. Okay, so this is the nomenclature of the veins that we are using right now. So this vein here, this vein is opening into this atrium. Okay, so this vein is opening into this right atrium, and this vein is opening into this right atrium also. So these two are opening in the same right atrium. Well, these two veins, this SVC and IVC, these both carry the blood which contains CO2. So let me draw it so yeah, they do have CO2 containing blood. Well, CO2, where this CO2 come from, we will discuss in some time. Okay, let's assume that from somewhere the CO2 came to this SVC and IVC, that is this vena cava and superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. Okay, so yeah, okay, so yeah, so this blood, CO2 containing blood, this reaches to the right atrium, and from here it enters into the right ventricle. Well, we have drawn two valves here. Okay, so if you are able to see, they are in the red colors. Okay, so this valve is called tricuspid valve, and this valve, which is located between the left atrium and left ventricle, this is called as bicuspid valve. Okay, so you can remember this thing by some technique that in humans, in adult human, we do have 32 teeth. Okay, so 32 means 3 or 2. So in this order, this tricuspid wall and this bicuspid wall. Tri means 3 and bi means 2. So in that manner you can remember this thing. Okay, so what that mean, tricuspid and bicuspid? Well, this tricuspid wall has 3 lobes, okay, and the bicuspid wall has 2 lobes, okay, and there is no other difference between these two. Okay, so this CO2 containing blood, it is entering from the superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. It is entering from here also, and after entering it goes to, yeah, it goes to in this place. Okay, so why this CO2 containing blood do not goes backwards? Well, this is depends on the position of the wall. Here the position is something like this. Okay, the walls are something located like this. Okay, so if the blood flow will come from upwards, they will open like this, but if the blood flow will go backward, they will not open. Okay, so they are located like this. So if blood is forcing from, you know, downwards, from the downside, they will not open. If the blood is forcing them from the upside, they will open easily. Okay, so they are located in that kind of symmetry, which is only favors unidirectional movement of blood. Okay, so CO2 is CO2 containing blood coming from right atrium to right ventricle, and after reaching here, it goes into this tube. Now, where does this tube goes? Okay, well, if this if these walls completely shuts off, then this blood will go to this tube. Okay, so this tube is referred to as, this is pulmonary artery. Okay, and there are two walls. There is one wall also between this ventricle and this pulmonary artery. This is this blue colored, which I have drawn in blue color. Okay, so basically this artery is going to the lungs. Why this blood is going to the lungs which have CO2? The answer is very simple, because we exhale CO2 and inhale O2. Okay, so in order to give this CO2 which is present in the blood to the lungs, this blood is going to the pulmonary artery, is going to the lungs through via pulmonary artery. Okay, and it has CO2 which will be exhaled out from the body, and O2 will be inhaled. So pulmonary the meaning of the pulmonary is basically lungs. Okay, and artery means the simply tube which carries the blood. Okay, so yeah, so this blood will go to the pulmonary artery, and it will go in the both directions because we have two lungs. Let me draw the structure of the lungs in a very minute detail. So yeah, we have two lungs. Okay, we have two lungs. This is the left and this is the right. Okay, so yeah, let's assume that these are the two lungs. Okay, so this blood is going to the lungs. This time it will go to the lungs. It is having CO2, it is carrying CO2. It will go to the lungs. Okay, so we have reached to the lungs. From this side also we are reaching to the lungs. We are trying to reaching to the lungs, but the distance is a little bit more. So yeah, we have reached. So we are going to the lungs, and here this this CO2 will be given to the lungs. Well, lungs have a structure called alveoli and alveolus if we go to the single one. Okay, so this blood, the blood will go to the alveoli, and there the exchange of CO2 and O2 takes place. Okay, so CO2 will be in the lungs and alveoli, and O2 will be in the blood. Okay, so CO2 we have exhaled out and O2 we have inhaled. So this blood will reach, I am drawing here oxygenated blood in the red sign. Why I am? Because our blood is red. Not exactly it is red, but something like in that lines. Okay, so from both sides we do have some tubes. So yeah, so this blood, O2 containing blood, which is oxygenated blood, this blood will enter into the these pulmonary veins. The veins which are coming out of the lungs and reaching to the heart are called pulmonary veins. So yeah, so this these tubes are pulmonary veins. Okay, so the one branch of pulmonary vein is in this side also. Okay, this is pulmonary artery. I have written already. Okay, so yeah, O2 containing blood have reached to the heart, and where it will reach? It will reach to the left atrium. Okay, so one tube is coming from here, and it is okay, so it is opening something like here, and these two tubes are opening here, and they are containing blood which have oxygen in it. Okay, so yeah, here also we do have a certain wall which is bicuspid wall. Okay, so it is also it is also situated in the same manner of the tricuspid wall. Okay, so it is situated like this. Once the blood will come out from the lungs and will trying to reach to the left ventricle. Okay, so these walls will have pressure of the blood. Okay, and the walls will opened up. Okay, and once the walls will open, the blood will comes down to the left ventricle. Okay, and now in the same manner which I have described earlier also, if there will be pump, then these walls will shut off. Okay, so they will not allow backward movement of the blood. They will only allow unidirectional movement of the blood from left atrium to the left ventricle. Once this blood reach here, this will go to the aorta, so it will reach here. Okay, now what do we call this wall? So these are the pulmonary walls. I am writing here. Pulmonary wall, and these two, these are called aortic wall. Aortic walls. Okay, why? Because this tube, this artery is going to the lungs. That's why we call as pulmonary wall. And this tube is going to the aorta. Okay, which is going to the throughout the body. Okay, so this is called aortic wall. So these are the two walls which we do have. Once blood reaches to the aorta, it goes to different parts of body. So it may go to the digestive system, somewhere near to the intestine. Here it can absorb some of the food. It is already carrying oxygen. So let's not forget that this blood is already carrying oxygen. Okay, and if it takes blood, if it takes food also from the digestive system, then it can go to the cells which need oxygen and glucose, because we know that cells need food, okay, to produce energy, and by that energy they do different activities. They involve in the formation of different organs, tissues, and whatever we use in a daily life, it is because of these cell organization. So cell need two things, food and oxygen. Now only food doesn't make any sense, because what cells will do of raw food? Okay, so they need a certain type of fuel to burn this fuel, to burn this food and to produce energy. The work of a fuel is being done by here is oxygen, because we do know that oxygen is an burning gas. Okay, without oxygen nothing can burn. That's why the oxygen is needed. So now I am drawing here a different structure. Let's draw in it. Okay, so yeah, let's assume that this is a tissue. It can be any tissue. Suppose muscle tissue is it. Okay, so we do have skeletal muscles on our hands, legs, and so and they help in movement. So once we move, the energy is exhausted. So these cells need to produce new energy, and for that they need oxygen and food. Now blood will supply the oxygen. So let's take the blood. So this is oxygenated blood which is flowing in this tube. And what kind of tube? Well, this is aorta, and there are many arteries which are being differentiated from aorta. So yeah, the blood is entering to the tissue, and once it enters into tissue, it gives the oxygen to the cells, and in return it takes CO2 from the cells. So blood will give oxygen to the tissues, and it will have CO2 which is being produced by cells through their metabolic activities inside it. Okay, so we know that there are many metabolic activities which are and these metabolic activities are very essential for day-to-day survival of a cell. For example, glycolysis, Krebs cycle, and electron transport system. These all need oxygen and food to produce energy. But in this process, they excrete CO2 plus some other metabolic waste, which are later excreted by the excretory system, the kidneys and the nephrons. Okay, so yeah, so this CO2 is entering here, and once this CO2 will enter here, it will okay, so we have done some of the mistake. Okay, so yeah, so the CO2 is flowing in this artery. O2 is is given to the cells, and CO2 is picked up from the cells, and this CO2 now is flowing into the blood. So it goes to this inferior vena cava, and in the same manner it also goes to superior vena cava. Okay, and then the cycle continues. Okay, so this circulation, which is running between the pulmonary artery and the lungs, this circulation is known as pulmonary circulation, and this circulation which is running between the tissues and the heart is systemic circulation. Okay, so this is pulmonary and this is systemic circulation. So this was all about the structure of the heart. Now it might confuse you, so let's take a revision about the structure of what is happening here, what is happening on this board, what is happening on this screen. We are going to revise it in just 2 minutes. Okay, so first thing, CO2 is entering into the blood through superior vena cava and inferior vena cava into the right atrium. CO2 containing blood. Okay, so if we are saying CO2 is entering into the blood, CO2 is entering into the blood through CO2 is entering into the heart through blood. Okay, so CO2 is mixed in the blood somewhere. So this CO2 is entering into the blood, this right atrium, and then it goes to the right ventricle. In between it has a tricuspid valve, and after it goes to the pulmonary artery, where it has in between these two walls, which are pulmonary walls. Then it goes to the lungs, gives CO2, takes O2. After it reaches to the left atrium, then it reaches to the left ventricle via these bicuspid valves, and from here it goes into the artery via these aortic valves, and further it goes into the system where it reaches to the tissues. The blood gives its CO2, the blood gives its O2 to the tissues or the cells and takes their CO2, picks up their CO2, and again it comes to the this right atrium through this inferior vena cava and superior vena cava, and the cycle continues, goes on. Okay, now we have missed one thing here. What that thing is? Well, that thing is muscles. So let me draw with the some certain different color. So the contraction and relaxation, the pumping out and pumping in of the blood from the heart is being carried out by cardiac muscles. Okay, so heart is a piece of meat basically which have cardiac muscles, and because of these muscles the blood goes out of the heart and comes in the heart, because where it relaxes blood comes in, and where it contracts it collapses, pumps it pumps blood out. Okay, so we do have certain cardiac muscles here. Okay, so yeah, we do have certain cardiac muscles, and these cardiac muscles are around these 4 boxes that we call as atrium and ventricles. This is everywhere. Okay, and without these muscles heart is nothing. If these muscles doesn't work, heart cannot do a single thing. So the primary role, which is of contraction and relaxation, is being carried out by these cardiac muscles. Okay, now cardiac muscles functions when they receive a signal, and we know that cardiac muscles are involuntary in nature. So that means they do not receive a signal from our central nervous system. So if I am saying that okay, cardiac muscles stops working, they will not stop. They are involuntary, they are autorhythmic in nature, they are receiving a signal from a center which is itself involuntary in nature. Okay, so yeah, it is not in our control. We cannot stop our heart. It is as simple as that. Where this autorhythmic center located? So yeah, the autorhythmic center in our heart is located in the right atrium here. So we call it as SA. So yeah, let me undo it. So we call is at SA node. Okay, I don't know whether it is visible or not, but we are running out of space in this board and the screen is filled. So this is SA node, and we have different the signals for beating of the heart are generated on the SA node. The full form of SA is sinoatrial node. Okay, there is another node here somewhere located near these pulmonary walls. This is AV node, atrioventricular node. So this is AV node, this is SA node, and after that here there are many bundles of neurons. Okay, so these are called bundle of His. Okay, there was a scientist called named His. He discovered that there are some kind of bundles which are located between these two ventricles, and they bifurcated here. They bifurcates here, and after that they goes to every nook and corner of the heart. So yeah, they are reaching to the heart here also, here also, here also. So they are reaching to every part of the heart. So they are called Purkinje fibers. Purkinje fibers. Okay. So once the rhythm, the beat, the signal is generated to the generated in the SA node, sinoatrial node, it comes down to the AV node. Simultaneously, it comes down to these muscles also, because neurons are located here also. Okay, so once it reaches to these atrium, the muscles contract, and the blood filled in these two ventricles comes down to this left atrium, left ventricle and right ventricle. In between, this message comes to the AV node, and AV node transfers this message to the bundle of His, and from bundle of His this goes to the Purkinje fiber. Okay, and once it reaches to the Purkinje fiber, these muscles receive this signal, these cardiac muscles receive this signal, and they contract. And once they contract, the blood which is filled in this right ventricle and left ventricle, you know, it contracted and blood goes out of the heart. Okay, it is as simple as that. Through this pulmonary artery and pulmonary artery, it goes to the lungs, and through this aorta it goes to the systemic circulation. So I hope by now you have a clear and very basic point about the heart, that how it works and what kind of structures are present, how it generates ear signal. Okay, so SA node, the cells which are present in the SA node, they are also called as pacemaker or autorhythmic cells. Okay, so yeah, that's all for today. I hope this topic is clear now. We will meet in the next class. Till then, goodbye.